Wilson listed as quarterback 1 on, of course, every team's got to put out these dopey unofficial depth charts before their preseason games. Wilson listed as 1, but Fields is going to start the preseason opener against the Texans.
I still think they're going to start Wilson, but, if they start Fields, so be it. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I know this. I think they're both talented.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're legit 5 deep at receiver, 7 bona fide pass targets deal. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes! Are you ready?
Let's go!
That's what champions do.
Welcome into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. I am Kasey Hudson, and I am so excited to be hanging out with everyone on a Friday night because we are getting that much closer to real NFL action. We're getting that much closer to college football, which we're going to bring in some expertise to really break down what's going to take place in week 0, talk about those polls a little bit more. We do have some Big Ten to get into. We do have some SEC to get into because, well, there's a variation of opinions here on whether some teams are sitting a little too high or a little too low. But most importantly, we've got a lot of MLB ahead, which means we get a chance to talk with Tom Vecchio. And I've got some things up my sleeves tonight. We got to get his best bets, but we also have to get some angles on some curveballs I'm going to throw him in the betting market tonight. I haven't warned him about this one, but that's what's going to make tonight on Game Time Decisions so much more fun. And then, as I always like to kind of gravitate to, the drama going on in the NFL. Why? Because this placates into what we could potentially see gearing into week 1. As you all know, there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to America's team, the Cowboys, but we've got an interesting matchup where we'll probably see some things. You've got a Raiders team that's got to figure out who their starting quarterback is. Is it going to be Gardner Minshew? Is it going to be O'Connell? This is going to be something figured out this weekend, according to head coach. And then some of the rookies. Some guys have shown that they need a lot more respect on their name heading into this NFL season. So I'm excited to dive deeper into that as well because I have a guy that I think should be probably the MVP of the season in the rookie category. So we've got all of that. Then FedEx St. Jude's Championship. We got to get some golf guests in here and so much more. But let's go ahead and get into this MLB conversation. Let's see if I can throw Tom Vecchio off. Tom, thank you for joining us here on SportsGrid. Be sure to follow Tom at Tom_Vecchio1. I had a lot of people asking me who you are, what you're about, and how to follow you. So I got to make sure to throw that out. How are you doing on Friday?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Yeah, we have a loaded slate. It's getting to crunch time for a lot of these teams. The playoff races are starting to take picture for the most part. Obviously, the wild card races are particularly close. I'm ready to get going.
Okay, so it is Friday, which means we got to have some fun with it. And what do most people do on a Friday? They have some bar talk. So the first curveball I'm throwing you, Tom. Walk into a bar on a Friday, you've got one chance to make a good impression, one chance to drop a fire pickup line, and that pickup line is your favorite bet, your top bet of the night. What are you hitting me with?
I keep it super simple. It's just a player getting on base multiple times, and that'd be Royce Lewis for 2+ total bases, staying at -105. He's a great player, so I think I'd stick with like a great line, and that's -105. We're not laying too much juice. We're getting nearly even money. He's going up against Andrew Heaney, who's just not a good pitcher, specifically against righties. He's allowing a 389 slugging, a 429 xFIP, 1.30 home runs per nine, and 46% fly ball rate. So I'd say, okay, Lewis, we want a good hitter on the other side to get on base. That's what the goal here is, to get on base. And he's got a 181 WRC plus versus lefties. He has a 314 BABIP, so he gets the ball in play. Doesn't strike out too often. And he's got a fly ball rate to hit the long ball, which is always good for 2+ total bases.
I like that. Now, you mentioned about somebody not striking out too often. So we got to see if I'm striking out with one of my favorite bets of the night. I'm leaning towards Aaron Nola to have over 5.5 strikeouts, because apparently this guy might be a low-key minority owner when it comes to Citizens Bank Park. He likes to play there, and he plays very well. You're looking at a guy who's 55-30, 3.22 ERA, and 925 career strikeouts in this park. Am I hot or cold on this one?
No, that's certainly good. Nola and Wheeler are my number one picks for being the best 1-2 combo in the NL for starting pitching. The Nationals don't strike out a whole lot, but we should see Nola out there for a good amount. So I like that pick. I would actually, my favorite pick of his would probably going to the total outs prop. It's probably a little bit safer. That's probably my preferred route if you're going with a Nola prop tonight. But over 5.5 for Nola, I think it's sitting at -110 or -116. I think that's certainly fine as well.
Big fan of that. Now, what about Nick Castellanos, 2+ total bases? I like this one, -135. Where are you leaning on it?
It's certainly fine. He's going up against Patrick Corbin. Patrick Corbin's not a good pitcher. He hasn't been a good pitcher for a couple of years. So as a lefty Corbin, then you could basically take any righty on the Phillies. You could also go to Trey Turner for not just 2+ total bases, but going to the hits plus RBIs plus runs market. You can certainly find some value there. It is a lefty-lefty match for both Schwarber and Harper, and eventually at a certain point, we're going to get the bullpen for the Nationals. So getting some action on basically any of the top hitters for the Phillies, whether it be Baum or Harper, or going to Schwarber, I think they're all fine tonight. Like, he's a bad pitcher. They're all in a good spot.
Big fan of that. Now, I'm trying to get better at not being so basic when it comes to some of my prop bets, but when you're looking at this Yankees-Tigers matchup and obviously everything going on over there, is it too basic to go with Judge for 2+ hits or Soto for an RBI? Where are you leaning on this?
No, I think that's, like, baseball's a weird sport, and, you know, a player going 0 for 4 happens, the next day he's 4 for 4, so keeping things simple is often the best route to go. Taking RBI prop from Soto is always great. I like RBI props for the fact that he technically doesn't have to get a hit for it to win the bet. A sac fly isn't a hit. Getting a walk with the base loaded isn't a hit. So, like, there's multiple paths to getting an RBI prop, especially if you're getting it at plus money. So taking Soto is fine. Taking Judge is fine. I would actually lean on Garrett Cole under strikeouts. You know, he's looked good this year. He hasn't looked amazing, but baseball is weird and there's a lot of variance. So if you can buy into that variance with something like home runs and shoot for a ton of plus money, that's great. But also just keeping things really basic is just a really easy route to go most times.
Yeah. Now, there's a game that's kind of bothering me a little bit here, Tom, so I need your help. You've got the Diamondbacks versus the Rays, and no, it's not bothering me because of the Tampa Bay Rays. What's bothering me is that you've got Arizona, which is pretty electric in a lot of categories. First in runs scored with 644, second in both batting average. But then you got a Rays team. You got Siri and Brandon Lowe, who actually play quite well against Arizona. Now, I was kind of gauging whether or not to look at this Diamondback money line, but also first 5 innings money line for the Rays. Is this a hot or cold situation for me other than stressing about the Tampa Bay Rays?
So I don't bet too many first inning, I should say first 5 money lines. That's just not something I do. I understand the premise behind it because you're banking on just the starting pitching. You don't have to worry about the bullpen at that point. I think that's fine, taking the Rays for the first 5 there. Like you said, the Diamondbacks, they're just so hot on offense right now. It's Ryan Pepio versus Ryan Nelson, I believe, in that matchup. It's a stay away from me. I think the first 5 for the Rays is fine. If you get it at plus money only, I'd have to dig in a little bit more to see what's at.
That's good. What's your favorite game of the night?
It's probably going to the Houston Astros versus the Chicago White Sox because Spencer Arrighetti's on the mound for Houston and Garrett Crochet's on the mound for the White Sox. So we're going to see some big-time pitching in that one. And I want to go to Arrighetti over 6.5 strikeouts. It's sitting at -122. He has been awesome this year, and he specifically as of late, he's got a 27.9% strikeout rate for the year. It's been over 30% in 3 straight starts. The White Sox, they're 10th worst in the league versus righties with a strikeout rate of 23.7%. We do see a good swing strike rate from Arrighetti at 12.3. His xFIP is slightly over 4 for the year, but it's actually come down in recent starts because he's been so good. So big time pitching in this one. Also big time pitching between Logan Gilbert and Paul Skeens for the Mariners and the Pirates. Those are 2 awesome games tonight.
Love that. Now, really quickly, you've got the Marlins that are letting up a lot of runs, which is pretty problematic. And then you're going against a Mets team that's continuing to try to keep their footing in the door here. Is there anything flattering within this matchup? Marlins giving up a lot of mound runs, 4 out of 5.
Yeah, the Mets have a 5.31 implied run total, and Roderick Munoz is on the mound. He's giving up a 667 slugging to lefties and a 434 WOBA. So going to a lefty for an RBI prop tonight would be the easiest way to go. I know there's a lot of solid hitters. You always look to Pete Alonso. Jeff McNeil at +150 is actually my favorite. He's hitting a little bit deeper in the lineup, but we get a good amount of plus money to take a smaller unit on Jeff McNeil at +150 for an RBI.
Big fan of that. Now we've got that and a couple more innings that I'll get some information on breaking down on the other side of this break. Stay with us here on SportsGrid TV.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFP selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson still hanging out with Tom Vecchio to get all of the MLB insights and information. Tom, we were chatting a little bit about the Marlins versus the Mets, but there is another game that I want to get to. It's more of a stay away for me, so you can guide me through this one. But Mariners Pirates, is Paul Skeens the answer to snapping the stink for the Pirates right now? And then you've got Logan Gilbert apparently on the mound after losing 3 in a row. Most win, must win for both teams, probably more so for the Pirates. What's sticking out in this one?
Yeah, you would like to think having your ace on the mound is the best way to break a losing streak. Tough West Coast road trip for the Pirates, all those losses. Their, playoff hopes are kind of slipping away. I wanted to see him in the playoffs because I want to see Paul Skeens pitch. Mariners, also a kind of a tough spot for them, a couple losses to the Tigers. I think it's reasonable to take Logan Gilbert under strikeouts. It is sitting at minus 142 under 6.5. I think he's a good pitcher. The strikeouts can certainly be there for him at times, but the Pirates have to get something going on offense. Paul Skeens on the other side, his mark is sitting at 8.5, and he's an awesome pitcher. I can never take unders on him. It doesn't mean I love the over. He's a pitcher that could go out there and put up 10 strikeouts in 5 innings. I can't take overs all the time on him, but I'm also not willing to take the under. I hope that makes sense. Like, the line is where it is, so it's a stay away for me because I'm not willing to lay an under on someone like Paul Skeens, but I also don't have interest in the over. So I like under 6.5 on the game overall. I just think it's going to be an absolute pitching duel. It should be top tier. So some interest in this game, but I'm not jumping to it as of now.
Yeah, well, it makes complete sense to me because, as I said, it's a stay away. After looking at everything, I just couldn't really confidently sit in any direction over another. We'll see what plays out for either of them tonight. But, I mean, for all that's said about Paul Skeens and his season throughout this past year, of course, you want to see him be the guy to pull this team through and get the Pirates get something going. As for getting something going, you got the Royals that are fighting for a playoff spot. You've got the Reds that just kind of keep sneaking in the mix there. And then some people chatting about a Royals money line. So I got to get your opinion on this one.
I'm big on the Royals. I have been all year. I'm big on Bobby Witt. I think going to him for 2+ hits is probably the best route to go. You can't take 2+ total bases. It's often juiced very heavily to minus 150, minus 160. I would go to 2+ hits. I would go to 3+ hits, runs, RBIs. That's also a marker to go to. Michael Lorenzen is a okay pitcher when it's all considered. I would take the under on his strikeout props. I would take the over on the game overall. I think it's a fantastic hitter's park, so we should see plenty of offense. Minus 134 is just not a mark I'm willing to lay with a team like the Reds that are ultimately relatively mediocre, all things considered. And I don't think that they're substantially better than the Royals. So the Royals money line certainly interests me, the over in this game, and any combination of Bobby Witt props, that plus money you can get.
Yes, a lot of people are on Bobby Witt, but I mean, he hasn't disappointed much at all this season. And has been guaranteed to continue to keep rolling hot. Now, looking at the Red Sox-Orioles matchup, I got another little game for you. Dodge it or ding it. Ding it means you're here for it. So we're going to see sometimes if some of these 4-leg parlays are attractive or not. As for the Red Sox-Orioles, they have got Ryan O'Hearn to hit a single, Robert Refsnyder to record a hit, under 5.5 first 5 innings alt total. No, you're not the biggest fan of the first 5, and then over 7.5 alt total runs. Would you dodge this or would you ding it?
You said Ryan O'Hearn to have a single. Is it a single or is it a hit? Because he could have 3 doubles and he doesn't have a single, and he'd be crushing the night at the plate, but he doesn't have a single.
Just a single.
So that it's specifically a single. I would probably dodge it. I would want to make it work. Like, okay, he has a hit and Rob Refsnyder also has a hit, instead of being so specific, because we could open up the possibility to routes of winning. Because Ryan O'Hearn's a pretty good power hitter at times. If he goes up there and has 3 home runs, we were right about him, but he just doesn't have a single. I don't want to take a loss in that scenario. So a hit would be better.
Okay, so dodge it unless you can alt it out for the hit, which I do like the logic behind that. And then what about Corbin Burns? 7+ strikeouts, plus money here at 126.
Yeah, I think that's a fine mark to go. He's awesome. The Red Sox, they could certainly have some power in their lineup, but I would take Corbin Burns at what he has as a pitcher ahead of what the Red Sox can potentially offer as a lineup. So, give me one of the best pitchers in the AL time and time again at home.
I like that. Talking a little bit about the later slate, Ohtani versus the Cardinals. Now, career-wise, batting average sitting at 300. Then you got 2 home runs also career-wise. Maybe not specifically talking about Ohtani. Is there anyone that you could see catching a nice home run prop tonight?
For that game, it'd probably be Freddie Freeman. Miles Mikolas, just not a pitcher I'm worried about overall. He's fine. He can limit the damage overall, but he's not a big-time strikeout pitcher. I will take the righty-lefty matchup that Freddie Freeman brings to the table versus Miklos. 9.5 over-under. I don't have a ton of interest in that. With the lack of offense that we've seen from the Cardinals, especially as of late, there's no source of, like, they don't bring me a source of confidence that they can put up the runs. The Dodgers can put up the runs left and right. We know that, but the Cardinals aren't a team that inspire a whole lot of confidence, especially on the offensive side of things.
Absolutely. And then let's talk some Guardians and Brewers on the later slate of the night. What's popping out most here? I see you nodding your head, so something's popping out.
Yeah, I like the under on this one. Tough news for the Brewers today that Christian Yelich is going to be done for the season. He's been out for a couple weeks at this point, so it's not like he just dropped out of the lineup today. But good pitching staffs on both sides, really good pitching staffs on both sides. The other day I spoke about the Guardians having one of the best bullpens in the entire league, and the Brewers are certainly up there with them. So lack of offense overall in this game, it's at 8, so you always can get the push, which is solid. It's super close on the money line, so I wouldn't go near either one of those, but under 8 is probably the best route to go.
And then quickly, under a minute, anything for Padres Rockies?
That's tough because so many lines are juiced for players because it's at Coors Field that I would have a ton of interest in Padres props, but if they're going to be juiced for an RBI prop, sitting at minus 110, I would never take that. If you can find something at like plus 125, that's a little bit of a different story, but nothing too compelling from Coors Field tonight.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Well, Tom, thank you so much for giving us all the rundown on this Friday night slate. Be sure to follow Tom over on X at Tom_Vecchio1 to continue to keep up to date on all of his MLB knowledge and so much more. Stick with us on the other side of this break because it's time to dive into the NFL preseason.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. Once again, I am Kasey Hudson, and as I mentioned, I'm pretty psyched to dive deeper into the NFL preseason conversation because now things are getting real. We're starting to see a lot more teams incorporate their starters. We've got headlines that are going to affect week 1, and we've got really good games this weekend. So that's what I'm most excited to hop into, starting with the Falcons taking on the Ravens. Now, I'll preference this by saying that you've got two teams that have pretty banged up young guys on both ends. You've got Braylon Trice for the Falcons, and then you've got Kyle Hamilton and rookie Nate Wiggins for the Ravens. Now, my perspective, my angle coming into this one is that if you've got your young guys banged up, which are the ones that you're going to obviously be vetting to see if they're going to maintain a roster spot, I kind of see this getting a little bit more high scoring. You've got the Washington gunslinger and Penix Jr., who's going to probably be taking a lot more reps here. And he went 5 for 11 completions, or 5 of 11 completions last time he was in. But outside of that, his poise in the pocket, his confidence coming out the gate is there. We're going to probably see how strong his arm is at that NFL level. Can he connect on some deep balls? Because it was very hit or miss with the accuracy last time. And obviously, we're going to see how well he can kind of mature that a little bit more. Yes, it's just been 1 week, but he's made the reps in practice, and he's not a guy competing for that QB1 spot like a lot of other young guys in the NFL right now. So kind of gauging how Penix Jr. is supposed to play this weekend, and then looking at the banged up defenses, and then kind of looking at how the Ravens are going to produce. Where I'm leaning on this one is an alt total of over 32.5. I just kind of see this being a little bit up there, but not as crazy as the total coming in at 35.5. I think that we're going to see a lot of action, but eventually it's probably going to rely on the ground game after things or the realm gets handed over from Penix Jr. onto any other guys competing for the backup position. Now, the next game I'm really psyched about, it's the Giants versus the Texans. In this one, it's already been noted that the starters are going to be in on both ends here, especially when it comes to the Giants. Now, not a surprise. You got Daniel Jones coming back from his injury, and unfortunately, he's not going to be able to figure out what the connection, what the bromance is going to be with some of his rookie wide receivers, because practices are banging up a lot of guys. But outside of that, you've got Dave Mills, who took majority of the reps last week for the Texans. C.J. Stroud went 2 for 4, 41 passing yards, and a touchdown, the only TD of the group last week. But we're going to probably see a lot more out of Stroud, because now he's going to get one of his offensive linemen back. And when you're kind of gauging the gears there of how well he's going to play behind that offensive line, we can count on that first quarter kind of gearing towards seeing starters on both sides. But the Giants did confirm that they will have their starters in. And then last week, Texans nabbed 17 points in the first half. So I think you can figure out where I'm leaning on this one. I like the Texans to be first half winners here, minus 148. I think that they can set the tone and bring the momentum. And again, what they're going to bring to the table with their starters in comparison to what the Giants are sorting through with their starters, I just think that the consistency and the momentum will be there a lot more for that Texans roster. Now, we love drama, or at least I do for right now. And no, not the reality TV version, the NFL version. Bills versus Steelers. You've got Russell Wilson, who got the nod for the starting position this weekend. And, of course, you've got the battle within the quarterback room and between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields as to who is this system going to gear towards? Well, they do need to figure that out. Between Wilson and Fields, you've got two of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. I think they combined for 199 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. But with both of these teams putting their starters out there, it was kind of not sure at first for the Bills, but we do know that Josh Allen has to get a rhythm going or a bromance going with somebody in the wide receiving group, and that's going to be Keon Coleman, that he's got to figure out if he can rely on him, because we don't want another season of 100 Josh Allen fumbles. So what I like most in this one is probably the under total of 39.5. I also like the Bills to have a field goal in the first scoring play at plus 320. You're getting good value here for something that I think can play out heavily. You got your starters going in. We don't know what the Bills roster is really going to look like out here. You still have a Steelers team that has a really stout defense. So on top of trying to figure out what's going to happen under center, then you've got a Steelers defense that can help out a lot. And they're supposed to play more than just the first quarter. So first half-wise, I see things being pretty low scoring. Bengals-Bears. Another game where you're going to see a lot of the starters, again, for more than just a quarter. And I like the alt spread here of the Bengals plus 3.5 at plus 142. So these are the things in the games that I'm keeping the closest eye on when it comes to the preseason action this weekend. We're going to dive into a lot more of it when we talk to George Kurtz a little bit, or shortly actually, but my best bets, my favorite bets heading into the NFL preseason, and we definitely have more games to get into, so stay with us on the other side of this break here on GameTime Decisions on SportsGrid TV. TV.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It's Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. I am Kasey Hudson, and we have a lot more NFL to jump into, and we have to talk about pain. So we're going to bring in George Kurtz to continue the conversation with me about the NFL, what's going on, what's coming up, and then most importantly, see what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys. George, I hate to start our friendship on this note, but I guess I should start with how are you? It's Friday. You look great. I'm sitting in a booster seat. How's it going?
It's funny. Most of my friends actually love to start with the Cowboys so they can see me go on a rant and bounce off the walls here as I try and figure out what this team is up to here. I know the next question is going to be about CeeDee Lamb. We heard earlier today, all right, that apparently they're close, that they are close to getting a deal done. This is not a surprise. We all expect CeeDee Lamb to get done. We all know the parameters of a new deal. Justin Jefferson, he's going to get $36 million per year on AAV. He's going to get a certain amount guaranteed. Why it's taking this long is anyone's guess, but Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, this is what they do. It may not make sense, but they wait until the last minute, and then they sign their stars. I mean, think about it. Well, when was the last player that Dallas had that they wanted to keep that they didn't? They always sign their stars. They just wait so long that it costs them more money because they wait so long, and they give these star players, Lamb, Dak, Micah Parsons, they give them all the leverage here. So I expect this deal for Lamb to get done. I always thought, end of August was going to be the over-under. Now I'm starting to think it'll get done a little earlier than that. It'll get done. That won't be a problem. As for Dak, if that's the next question, I have doubts about that one. I don't know if that's going to get done. Dak has all the leverage. Maybe he doesn't want to be in Dallas. Yeah, maybe he'd like to go play, I don't know, for the Jets, for the Raiders next year. Or maybe he just wants to make as much money as he possibly can and just break the bank on all this, and Jerry doesn't want to give him that. Dallas, fun topic here. Lamb, yes. Dak, I'm not sure.
Well, yes, Dak was the next question, but kind of in a different preference here because you've got Dak that has this press conference. His emotions completely not there. I mean, I wasn't sold on the whole we're conversations are going well. Now he shows up, kind of thing. Do you think that was a nudge for Lamb to just show up to practice, because one of them have to concede here, and it's not looking like it's going to be Lamb. It sounds like they want him to show up for practice in order to start getting deeper in the contract negotiations and make it favorable for him. But I feel like Dak Prescott was kind of a ploy in this.
Maybe so. Listen, they're talking behind the scenes. I'm sure Dak and CD have had conversations. CD's not showing up without a contract. He's not showing up until he signs CD Lamb. All right, he's not. Why would he? Once again, he has all the leverage here. The Cowboys have to sign him, and we know what the deal is going to be. He may not be Justin Jefferson, but he's not that far behind either. But he's going to get paid more than Justin Jefferson. People get all upset about contracts here. And we all know, hey, Tua, Jordan Love, they're not as good as Patrick Mahomes, but they got more money because they became a free agent at that time. It's the way it works. It's just the way it works here. CeeDee's going to get more money than Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase is likely to get more money than both of them. And we all know CeeDee is staying with Dallas. I don't know if Jamar Chase is staying with Cincinnati because that's a cheaper organization. We'll see what they do here. I assume he is, but I'm not anywhere near as certain as I am with CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys. The deal will get done. All right, it's just a matter of when. This is on Jerry Jones. I don't think this is CeeDee Lamb's problem. All right, it's all on Jerry Jones when he wants to sign the player. In some ways, I think he enjoys this because what do we talk about as a joke before we started here? Dallas Cowboys, got to talk about them. Everybody does 10 times an hour. Jerry Jones wants you to talk about them too. Right? It's what he wants. He's a marketing genius. He's a terrible GM, but he's a marketing genius. And we're all talking about the Dallas Cowboys 24/7. He'll keep this going as long as he thinks necessary, or as long as he thinks until he thinks it's a detriment to the team. When does CeeDee Lamb have to be in camp to have that big season?
I couldn't agree more with the fact that they like to keep themselves relevant, and that's why the headlines always just kind of rule in their favor of the drama, especially because you got Mike Parsons going at it with a running back in camp. But this is not the only camp that's had plenty of drama going on. I'd love to pick your brain on this Steelers-Bills preseason game, not particularly preseason game, but maybe more so what's going on with the Steelers. You got a system that's probably more complementary to Justin Fields' quarterbacking style, but then you got Russell Wilson in there who's got the veteran presence, and I feel like the Steelers are just kind of tired of going with the young guys. It hasn't worked out for them as of late, but there's a lot of tension in that quarterback room, and you've got Russell Wilson with the tap for the preseason game this coming Saturday. What are you seeing when it comes to the Steelers?
It's a different situation, right? Now, I love Mike Tomlin, by the way. Mike Tomlin can coach my team anytime. Love him. I can listen to his press conference 24/7. He's just fantastic. He just tells you how it is. But I find it strange that he felt to give deference to Russell Wilson. Oh, he's the starting quarterback. Why? Russell's not that guy anymore. He's not that Hall of Fame quarterback he was with Seattle. He's still an NFL quarterback, and he had a better year last year than we give him credit for, but he's not that guy anymore. You bring in Justin Fields, who has upside here. All right, and I would really like to see Justin get a chance here with better weapons. Steelers may not have all that great weapons outside of Pickens here, but I'd like to see him get that chance to start again. I understand, listen, you want to pay deference to the veteran, fine, but camp should be a true training camp battle. My issue is this. Russell Wilson, all right, he has some mobility, but he's not Justin Fields. And what I mean by that is that means you're running two different offenses. If you really want to give Justin Fields a real chance at the starting job, you need to have a different offense, a move, one that gets him outside the pocket, right? Where he can scramble left, scramble right, use his legs. I don't know if he's ever going to be a pure pocket passer. I just don't see that. You need to use his athleticism here, and that's what concerns me here. The offense is really built more for Russell Wilson. It's sort of built for him to succeed, or him to succeed more than Justin Fields will, even though, Steelers, who's quarterbacking next year, right? Russell Wilson's on a one-year deal, so is Fields. Who's your quarterback next year? You're gonna keep Wilson? Fields you might have a quarterback in Fields for the next 4 to 6 years. You just don't know without giving him a true shot.
Yeah, and it doesn't even feel like they came up with a real plan when they brought in both of these quarterbacks, because as you mentioned, what happens after this upcoming season? Nothing is being particularly groomed specifically for either guy in the pocket there, but I think that it's a frustrating situation, almost more so for Justin Fields, because I feel like the opportunity hasn't been directly presented to him to perform, but that's just my personal opinion on that one. But as for performance, there's a team that just sits at the top over and over and over again. The Chiefs are still favorable to win another Super Bowl, to win their division, to win all these things. But what weapons does Patrick Mahomes have outside of Travis Kelce? Now you've got some weird comments between Coach Reed and Kadarius Toney. You've got some off-the-field issues. You've got some on-the-field injuries. I mean, how does anyone stay high on the Chiefs right now?
I mean, you can make an argument. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you didn't watch football the last couple of years. You have no idea what's going on. You just came out of a coma and no one told you anything. When you look at the rosters here, all right, Chiefs are a good team, right? Mahomes, okay, really good. Best quarterback in the NFL. Kelsey, Hall of Famer. And then you're like, all right, this is as a playoff team, but that's about maybe as far as you go. Okay, the AFC West is terrible. They win the division. But I probably like the Baltimore Ravens team 1-53 more. Bengals are a good team. Houston's an up-and-coming team, more on the offensive side. Bills, okay, we'll see what they can do at wide receiver. Miami, you wouldn't think that Kansas City is going on a three-peat. You just wouldn't think that. But until someone dethrones them, it's hard not to like them. I sort of equate them to the end of the New England Patriots when Brady was still there. Almost every year, I'd be like, oh, this is the year. Now, they don't have it. That team's not very good until you realize that Brady and Belichick are that good, and they win even with lesser people here. And I think that's what Mahomes and Reed do. They just win with lesser talent here. Until someone dethrones them, I'm done trying to figure out how they win games, betting against them or saying they're not going to win. They're going to win that division. They're going to make the playoffs. I'm going to say no, they don't get home field, but that doesn't seem to make a difference anymore now either.
Yeah. Now, speaking of burned really quickly, probably less than 30 seconds, the Bills and the Jets are sitting atop of the AFC East, but I think this is so disrespectful to the Miami Dolphins. Are you on my team, George? Are we friends, or are you not on my team with this one?
We're not enemies because I kind of go with you. I know you heard you talking the last segment, right? Bills, if Keon Coleman steps up, fine. Until that, I have doubts about them. The Jets, where's Aaron Rodgers? Is he a Hall of Famer or is he half of what he used to be? Defense is legit there. Miami sort of has the full picture. Problem is, real quick, is Tua, Dak Prescott, wilts in big games. That's my concern. It's a small sample size, but that seems to be the problem with Tua.
Yeah, cold weather is not his friend. Second half of the season's not his friend, or I guess January, February, clearly. But, George, thank you so much for joining me. We continue this conversation talking about the AFC odds and more on the other side of this break. Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFC selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
are keeping the party going here on Game Time Decisions on a Friday on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson just hung out with George Kurtz, got some of the deets on what's going on in Dallas, or at least what he thinks is going on in Dallas. Will we see Lamb? Probably. Was Dak Prescott a play? In my opinion, but there's some things outside of the drama and the disrespect that we just talked about, and that's going to be over in the AFC East. Now, looking at the odds, we love to play a little futures game here, and where I'm a little confused is that you still got the Bills sitting up top here. You got the Bills hovering and looking down on everybody else, and it's not making sense to me because you've got Josh Allen, who has to find bromance with Keon Coleman and a couple other wide receivers. And while he probably strategically downplayed the missing in action Stephon Diggs, then we have to see a guy who doesn't rely on his legs all the time, fumbles the ball. Like, look, I love picking him up when it comes to rushing props. It's going to make you some money, but how is it going to help his team? So the Bills sitting at top, I don't understand. They lose some key guys in their secondary, and the matchups that they're going to have to go against, especially when it comes in division versus the Miami Dolphins team, I don't see how they weather some of these storms. Now, I know when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, which is the team that I think is severely disrespected here, I get that Tua hasn't shown up for an entire season. Yes, he played 17 games last year, but something happens with his hands and his fingers when it comes to playing in the cold and getting over the second half hump of the season. But more importantly, he's coming off of a payday. He's got receivers coming off of massive paydays. They made some very small plugs to their secondary to help out their defense, because how good are you when you can stack points but your defense can't keep you out of dangerous positions for the life of you? I think the Dolphins did just enough to maybe move up the ranks here a little bit, but I guess the bigger conversation is going to be the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to be able to deliver? I'm not so nervous about what Aaron Rodgers is or is not going to do. You're still looking at a key defense in the NFL here that performed very well, regardless of what quarterback was managing last year. Of course, if issues come down with the conversation around Hassan Reddick, then we're looking at a bigger problem here. But with that being an unknown, that's why I think that the Dolphins should be sitting a little higher, probably something worth a sprinkle in my personal opinion. Now, moving out of the East into the South, this one's probably a simpler solution. I don't see much drama or disrespect here. I think the Texans, as you guys have seen here on SportsGrid, is a worthy team of sitting higher up in the conversation. They made the right moves. They got the right plugs. They got the right pieces. Their defense actually was a little more surprisingly stout than any of us expected, gearing up towards that divisional game before they fell to the Ravens. And then you've got so many more weapons when it comes to C.J. Stroud's ability to spread the ball, and then their ability to get the ground game going, something that was extremely inconsistent last year. Now they have the ability to be consistent in that sense. So them sitting up top of the AFC South, loving that one, loving the value there also. AFC North, let's get into this one really quick. You've got Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers. We don't know what's going to take place with the Steelers, but the Bengals and the Ravens. Now, you guys probably heard me be a little high on the Ravens a couple weeks ago when I got to talk with Ben and Donnie, but now I've got to say I'm kind of swerving a little bit here. I think that the Bengals are a team to kind of recommand their presence. You're talking about a team that's still kind of made a mark, even though there were so many unknowns behind Joe Burrow and his injuries and how he kept trying to fight to be back in the game. But I think that they have enough pieces to compete this year. And the Ravens are just one of those teams that tend to implode in the most important times. And I hate to say that about Lamar Jackson, but we haven't seen him pull off a proper playoff run. And if they've got to go through the Chiefs again, I want to keep my money in the most safe position possible. And that's probably going to be with the Bengals. AFC West. This one's pretty easy. You've got the Chiefs sitting up top here, and obviously you can get good value jumping on that. But you've got the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos. I don't see any surprises coming out of this one. I mean, we just talked to George a little bit to figure out how do you continue to side and stick with the Chiefs when they seem to lose guys that can help them produce. They seem to lose some of the excitement and the flash and the flare around their roster, but they are one of those teams that don't need flash and flare in order to be one of the top teams in the NFL year in and year out. And that's obviously because of the brilliant mind of Andy Reid. But I still have some question marks in terms of them being one of the top teams to be looked at for Super Bowl champions. I've talked about it at nauseum about what's going on in that wide receiving room. They're going to have to get some depth. Obviously, there's still room to add guys in or to figure things out because it cannot be the Travis Kelce show this year. So not surprised that when it comes to this group, it's more so going to be the Chiefs. Now, the Chargers can sneak in there. The Justin Herbert conversation obviously is a tough one. This guy cannot catch a break for the life of him, but I think Harbaugh having the reins over there is going to count for a lot. We see a team that has a lot of potential, but last year I would probably say that it's not the fact that they weren't a talented group, it's the fact that they were a group that could not stay healthy. Is this the recipe of the Chargers for the past 3 years? More than likely. Maybe not when it comes to this year, but I would love to keep an eye on the Denver Broncos, not just because of how they're going to situate their quarterback room, but what they're building there. They're getting the right players to not only buy in, but to perform in that system, and you're going to continue to see that grow. We saw a great run game out of them last year. We saw some surprising elements out of their defense. I think they kept a lot or enough players intact there and added the right pieces to sneak up the ranks, not this year, but probably next year. So when it comes to my top teams out of the AFC, as I mentioned, got to give some love to the Dolphins, a lot more respect. And plus, you're looking at a team that could probably run a couple more 2 tight end sets. And if you guys learn anything about me here on SportsGrid, I go berserk for teams that can run a great 2 tight end set. Then I don't want to give too much love to the Jets yet. I got to see some things. Patriots have things to figure out when it comes to their defense. Drake May did have a pretty great game, in my opinion. They fell short just 1 point to the Eagles, but he went against a nice challenge from the Eagles defense, especially that Eagles secondary. I like the fact that he's a risk taker when it comes to tight coverage. I like that we saw some big passes out of him yesterday. Your wide receiver has to catch those, so it wasn't on May. It was on his receivers. But other than that, I think we give a little bit more love to the Dolphins. Let me know you guys' thoughts on that one, though, when it comes to the AFC rankings, and we'll get into the NFC another time. But other than that, we've got golf, we've got MLB, we've got an update on the scores. We've got so much more here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV, so go nowhere. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. And we started off talking about baseball, MLB with Tom Vecchio. Then we moved over into the NFL preseason, some of my favorite bets that I'm hoping we all cash in on this weekend. And now it's time to give some love to the ladies. We got the WNBA that got started back up last night after their small break, and obviously the Olympics and everything. And we've got a nice 3-game slate tonight. We've got the Storm taking on the Dream. Storm are 17-8 on the season and tied with the Minnesota Lynx for the top spot in the Western Conference. So what are we looking at when it comes to this matchup? A number of things. You've got some gamers here, and one of my favorite bets that you're going to probably want to look at hop on the wagon with me on is probably going to be Skylar Diggins-Smith. Now, mentioning the fact that the Storm are trying to continue to command and preserve their lead and find themselves kind of stacking a little bit more in the rankings, it's Skylar Diggins-Smith here that I think can be a gamer for this team. I love anybody that can rack up on the rebounds or the assists, and Skylar Diggins-Smith can do that. So I've got her to record 6+ assists at -152. She's averaging 6.5 on the season. And then prior to the last 2 games before the break, I mean, she made 8 and 9 assists look very easy. I mean, she was racking them up. I think it was 2 games prior to that. She picked up 8 assists apiece and then 9 above that. Now, also another reason why I like this matchup is because you're a team that's an Atlanta team that's at a whopping 7-17. That's obviously not the most flattering record when you're looking at betting, and you don't want to underestimate or overestimate what that's going to mean. But they lost their last 8 games straight in the first half of the season, and this is a team that's got a lot of questions to answer, a lot of things to figure out heading into this. So I think you guys all know where I'm probably going outside of the player prop bet for Diggins-Smith. I like the Storm to cover the -7.5 spread. They were able to kind of put up a number of points on this team last time they faced one another, and they beat them by 11 points on top of that. So this spread should be an easy deal for them to manage in tonight's matchup. Now, as for the next one, we've got the Mercury versus the Fever. 2 teams with defensive woes. So where do you go the minute that you know the team can't defend another team and both of them have this same issue? You start looking at the total. You start looking at whether they have the ability to go over and under. I didn't like where it was sitting originally. It felt a little high at 174. I think this opened up at 176, though. But I found an alt total for at 173.5. Also, so combining it, you can take the Mercury for a win and the total at 173.5. I found this one at +300. Now, looking at this matchup, I mentioned the woes for both of these teams when it comes to the defense. But let's talk and highlight offense a little bit. For the Mercury, they're 4th in points per game at 83.8. This is in large part to Kalia Copper. She's on fire for this team, one of the top in the WNBA, making it look easy to post 23.4 points per game. And she's obviously somebody that you'd want to take a look at when it comes to those player prop bets that I love so much. So Kalia Copper, over 24.5 points tonight, -106. Again, you're looking at 2 really soft defenses, so this can get a bit high scoring, which means the ladies that make it very easy to put up points, like Kalia does, that's somebody that you can easily snag some money on. Then you do want to give love to the Fever. They're not sitting too far behind offensively. They're 6th in points in the WNBA, sitting at 81.8. And of course, a lot of this is Caitlin Clark being in the driver's seat and being just the ultimate well-rounded player. And then you also have not far behind her, Kelsey Mitchell, who's also a big help. And I like this because Caitlin Clark is the top of the league when it comes to assists. So when you're looking at these soft defenses, when you're looking at the way Caitlin Clark can produce, not only is she probably going to grab her own points, but she's probably going to set up her team so that they have a chance to, pull off a W here and not be the team that's looked at that cannot win. Sun versus the Wings. Well, Dallas Wings are going to try to find their wings tonight. Do I think they can do it? Not so much. I'm taking Connecticut at -5.5 on this one. You have an elite defense for Connecticut. You also have 5 players with points per game in the double digits. Like, how do you go against something like that when you're trying to get your footing as a team as a whole? Dallas sits 8th in the WNBA in points per matchup, but again, this defense has just been extremely rough and extremely inconsistent. And then also to add favorably to Connecticut and why I think they're going to thrive tonight, Natasha Howard over 14.5 points, averaging 16.6 per game. She'll be grinding it out to make sure that teams pull through this afternoon. So continue to keep an eye on the WNBA slate tonight. Stay with us here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. Quick break, and we'll be right back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson now hanging out with Smiley Kaufman because we have got to talk about this FedEx St. Jude Championship and probably a lot of other things taking place in the golf world because we're in the postseason. We talked to Brady Cannon about it a lot, the significance behind it. Some players that, are surprisingly on that 49-50 cusp when it comes to the top 70 players. And then we also have some players that are a little unhappy at the FedEx so far. But let's start with you, Smiley. How's it going? You're getting in from 110 heat index, figuring out what you're going to eat. So I have an idea of how you're feeling right now.
I've been very lucky so far this week, Kasey, that I've been in the air conditioning. Yesterday I was in the booth. Today hosted our happy hour coverage where we had Denny McCarthy and Tom Kim on to kind of just walk us through the golf course, how they've played. And so far through 36 holes, it's been a lot of fun. But yes, the next meal is always what's on the mind when you leave the golf course, especially when it's been as hot as it's been this week in Memphis.
Yeah, and I should be more familiar with that heat index being from Florida, but just put me in Jersey for 1 week and all of a sudden I'm almost grossed out by that heat index.
Yeah, it's brutal out there. It is brutal out there. And so far in this tournament, it's been Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele. The cool thing about the FedEx Cup playoffs is that, once you get there, everybody when they get paired they're like the 1 and the 2 guys are playing with each other. So Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele, the 2 guys that have had the best years this year, have looked each other eye by eye. And Scotty Scheffler played very nicely the last 2 days, and same with Xander Schauffele. And I'm looking forward to see kind of how this weekend shakes up as they go to threesomes tomorrow because of weather in the morning. But so far, Hideki Matsuyama and Denny McCarthy at the top of the leaderboard. Really have liked what I've seen from Denny, but he hasn't won yet on the PGA Tour, so that's something to keep an eye on for a guy that's playing for a lot to try to make it to his first Tour championship. But winning your first tournament in the playoffs is, you're going against the best in the world, and most likely I'd be surprised not to see Scotty Scheffler be there in the last couple holes with a chance to win.
Yeah, Scotty's kind of where I want to go with this conversation because I was seeing some things about him having issues maybe with the playoff format. What are you hearing out there, or what have you seen yourself now that you're tracking what's going on with Scotty? Like, is that playoff format compatible for this postseason, or is it something that does need to be talked about being changed more?
Well, the FedEx Cup is always calculated based off of points. For every single tournament, players are rewarded points, and they add up throughout the entire season. It's how we have our FedEx Cup ranking system. And for the most part, I think it's probably been 3 or 4 years, give or take. I'm not sure exactly what year, but the Tour Championship, it switches from the points format to where we just keep adding points to see who is the first or second guy. They actually do it by a staggered scoring system. So Scotty Scheffler, who most likely will be the number 1 seed heading into the East Lake Tour Championship, he'll be set at 10 under par, and he'll only have a 2-shot lead over who is number 2. We assume that'll probably be Xander Schauffele. So the argument that Scotty Scheffler's made is that the PGA Tour calls it a season-long race for the FedEx Cup, but when you judge the entire year based off of the points, and then you get to the final Tour Championship, all those points go away. And Scotty's argument was, hey, if I get hurt on the 3rd hole or whatever hole, and we saw Scotty Scheffler get hurt this year at the Players, let's say I'm not able to come back from that and has to withdraw, he goes from first place in a 2-shot lead, give or take, to 30th place. And Scotty's made a ton of money this year. That's not what he's worried about. He just wants to be in a format that gives him maybe a little bit more about how well he's played this year, which is 6 wins and a gold medal. So it feels like the Tour Championship, he should have more than a 2-shot lead, which is maybe what I would argue. But for the consumers, it's very easy when you look at the TV and you see a leaderboard, you know exactly what you're looking at versus trying to calculate, what players have to do. It just gets a little confusing.
Yeah, and the way that you paint that picture would make sense to me because there's very little margin for error or anything else that could potentially take place. And when you're on such a roll as Scotty is, you don't want that kind of to be so close out of reach. God forbid something takes place. Now, you kind of ran through some names at the top of the segment here, but I always love to talk about a dark horse, and we've seen some guys kind of make a jump in the rankings or kind of really get in there, and there's a lot of money on the line. So who's popping out at you with this one?
Well, I think just dark horses, I think you got to start with who won the FedEx Cup last year, and that's Viktor Hovland. He's had a very poor year. He hasn't hit away from it. He's tried to, I don't know if perfection is the right word, but he's chased his golf swing a little bit, and it got him in a bad motor pattern. And right now he's on the outside looking in when it comes to making it just to next week to the BMW in the top 50. He was 57th coming into the week, but today had one of his best ball striking rounds of the year, shot a 700 par 63. So for Viktor Hovland, he's a guy that's now projected to be closer to actually making it to East Lake at 33. So if you're kind of looking for a guy that knows how to win and maybe found something, Viktor Hovland's only 4 shots back.
I like that. Now, obviously, every course kind of has their quirks. What's the key to this course? Because for me, I show up one day and I can drive my life away. And then I have absolutely no short game. I could potentially break every single club in my bag. Then the next week, I'm the short game shorty. I got it going on. What's the keys to FedEx?
Well, this golf course, TBC Southwind, it's all about hitting the fairway. And there's plenty of penalty area water hazards out on this golf course that are kind of lurking and hiding. Actually, it's the most golf balls found in the waters out at TPC Southwind on the PGA Tour. And The second is actually the Players' Championship, which you would think have more water, but TPC Southwind, the water is placed so efficiently out there to where you have to be so accurate and have to have high execution level on every single shot. So finding the fairway is important. The greens maybe will be a little softer tomorrow after the rain that we're expected to get. So I think guys that are hitting the fairways would be the ones that I'm targeting over the weekend. If you're able to go into some advanced stats and see, who the ball strikers are and who have faked it maybe in the first couple rounds, that's kind of how I would try to piece together the weekend as far as who you expect to be in contention to have a chance to win.
Yeah. And obviously one of the top things about this tournament is, you got the St. Jude portion of the FedEx Championship. You've got Colin Morikawa, who's donating $1,000 for every birdie. What have you seen around this storyline when it comes to Morikawa?
Well, Colin Morikawa is one of the nicest guys on tour, and you see many players throughout the year donate money to many great causes, but it's awesome to see Colin Morikawa do this. It's a very generous donation that he's going to give to the St. Jude Hospital that a lot of players visit the hospital every year. They have on Sunday, certain kids from the hospital actually come out and be the flag bearers on the 18th hole. So the community definitely hugs, this hospital, and the players definitely lean in and love coming here. They love visiting the hospital. And actually, Jordan Spieth earlier this week visited the hospital and made a donation. A part of his Jordan Spieth Foundation actually donated $500,000 to the hospital. So the players definitely love this event and love coming back here.
Yeah, they show up for this and many other strides. Now, outside of Scotty, who's your guy to keep an eye on? If you can't pick Scotty, you can't pick Victor, you can't pick some of the guys we've chatted about.
Well, I'm going to go to the top of the leaderboard. Let's see who he's chasing. He's chasing Sam Burns, Denny McCarthy, and Hideki Matsuyama. Well, Sam Burns is staying with him this week. So I don't know if it'd be fun to watch a Sam Burns, Scotty Scheffler battle. But Hideki Matsuyama, that's the one that keeps looking at me funny because coming off a bronze medal at the Olympics, Hideki's had a fantastic year, great iron player, and his putter's very hot this week.
Love it. Well, Smiley, go get some food. Fuel yourself up for more heat coming in. Stick with us here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. Smiley, thank you so much.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We're back with Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. Loved chatting about the FedEx with Smiley Kaufman, but it's time for us to talk some college football and get into Week 0, get into the SEC, get into maybe even some Heisman conversation, and I am so psyched to do that with Joe DeLeon, who's going to give us so much great insight, so much great breakdown. Your brilliance. You have takes that went viral throughout the last year. I just remember chatting about so much with you over at Believe. But how's it going, Joe? I just told you how fantastic Jersey is welcoming me so far.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how negative of an opening to your time in Jersey has been, because Jersey's always been kind to me, and it makes me feel bad that we're not more welcoming. But I am excited, though, because we've got college football right around the corner. We're about a week away, and I've been chomping at the bit. It feels like it's been years since I've watched a college football game, and I'm just excited to talk about this with you today.
I know, me too, because last time we hung out, we talked about the NFL, and then I had that hot take thinking that the 49ers weren't going to completely disappoint me, and, here we are now, waiting for a different result. But I don't want to go too much into the top 25 poll, but I think it kind of roundabouts all as a whole. You got Georgia sitting atop of that. You had, I think, 46 first-place votes that kind of swung them into that top spot. It's a tough feat to go back-to-back when it comes to number one. You also have them sitting at top of the SEC championship odds at plus 170, and then their first game is versus Clemson. Do you agree with these standings, or what do you think that it's going to be as much of a cakewalk as the sports books are kind of lining up for Georgia?
I absolutely do think that that's going to be the case, because you look at what this Georgia team's bringing back. They're bringing back premier players on the defensive side of the football, like Malachi Starks and Mykal Williams, who are going to be guaranteed to be first-round picks in this upcoming draft. They're extremely gifted. Their offensive line didn't really lose anybody. The one guy that they put out in Amarius Mims was in and out of the lineup with injuries. And they were very aggressive in the transfer portal of bolstering their receiver room. They added a second tight end who I think is going to be super productive this year in Benjamin Urasek from Stanford. Their running back room is bolstered with Trevor Etienne. But most importantly, I have been leaning on for picking any of these conferences, national championship selections, whoever I'm leaning on. I'm always turning to a team that either brings back a returning starter or just a guy that's got a lot of snaps under his belt. Last year, Carson Beck was thrown into a number of situations where he was asked to do almost everything. Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey were down. They were really, really hurting in their depth at receiver and points of the year because of injury, and he stepped up to the plate. I think with all of that adversity and still finishing in the top 5 in offensive points per game, they're going to be somehow possibly even better this year in year 2 of Mike Bobo's offense. I have been saying to everybody, if you can run to the book and place that SEC winner bet for Georgia or for the national championship, that's free money. That is an easy steal of a pick.
Yeah, and you laid that out perfectly, though, Joe, because there are a lot of teams that, even though they're sitting pretty high in the rankings heading into the upcoming season, they do have some key missing pieces, and they do have a couple guys that are going to be thrown into the fire, and you can't really tell if you should put your money there yet. But with them matching up versus Clemson, you got a Clemson team that didn't make any moves from the transfer portal, but they still have a statement to make. They feel like they can be one of the top teams in the ACC. So is there anything attractive in this game between Georgia and Clemson?
No, well, for me, I look at this matchup, and it's really not lined up at all in Clemson's favor for what you just talked about there. They were not very bullish during the offseason, frankly, at all, in trying to bring in any new talent, especially at positions of need. I'm a little wary on what's going to happen with their secondary. I think the defense is going to be fine, but I still have no idea who their premier receivers are, and their offense constantly sputtered. Now, I will give a little bit of grace to Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik that this is their second year working together, and it does take a little bit of time for things to mesh with the new OC, new quarterback. But I really think that Georgia is going to handedly win this game. I don't want to go as far as aggressively to say that this is a guaranteed blowout, but I really think that this is one of those games, just like how Georgia opened a couple of years ago against Oregon and felt like they just completely blew past them. This game could have that type of splattering written all over it.
Yeah, I think we'll see a little bit of manhandling in this situation. Now, following up with Georgia, you've got Texas. Texas was a team that I don't want to say surprised a lot of people, because anyone who was watching college football close enough, you just knew that you should continue rooting behind and rallying behind this Texas team. You got a couple key pieces out the door, but still enough of a foundation, sitting at plus 350 when it comes to the SEC odds. What are you seeing out of Texas?
Yeah, I don't love that Texas is the second highest team. Now, I think that they're going to have a really good season, and I also believe that their schedule is extremely favorable. Taking the over on their win total, which I think a lot of books have them at 10.5, that's very favorable to take. But for them to be an SEC winner pick, I'm very wary, one, at what's happening at running back. They just lost 2 backs, particularly their starter and C.J. Baxter. That's going to be an issue. They're down to 3 guys. They're trying to transition players from the defensive side of the football. They've got walk-ons. The running back position has tons of turnover, as we see at every single level, so that could hurt them. And I need to see what happens in replacement of the interior of their defensive line. They're stepping into a new conference where they're going to be expected to go toe-to-toe with teams that run the ball up the middle, that have big, mauling interior offensive linemen. And Devondre Sweat, Byron Murphy were high draft picks, were the best defensive line duo in the country. And frankly, I don't totally know who's that next premier guy. Maybe it won't be a huge step backward, but could be enough that they falter a little bit this season. So as the second team in the SEC and as maybe a bit of a longer shot to win it, I'm not putting my money there.
Now, we've got under a minute, but we get to keep you for a little bit longer. So we're going to start this conversation. Is it more of a surprise to see where Texas came in at, or Alabama? Is Alabama getting way too much credit in the post-Saban era, or is there no reason to panic quite yet?
I don't think there's any reason to panic, but I do find it really funny that, on the screen right now, we've got them at plus 700. I would not take that because they have a very, very brutal schedule. I am super bullish on Jalen Milroe and Kalen DeBoer working together this year. I think they're going to be great, 9-10 win team, but to win the SEC in DeBoer's first year is going to be very, very tough sledding.
Absolutely. And plus, I'll probably give a little bit of my remarks when it comes to Alabama sitting too high, in my opinion. But as I mentioned, Joe Six with us on the other side of this break. So go nowhere and join us back here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Game Time Decisions. And as promised, we were keeping Joe captive. No, Joe's enjoying hanging out with us and giving me some pointers on how to navigate New Jersey and no left turns and make sure that my directionally challenged self can figure out how to get better in that seat. But Joe, because we're friends, we need to talk about one of my favorite college football teams. That's FSU taking on Georgia Tech. You got FSU sitting okay in the rankings, obviously sitting atop the ACC. And then with this one, matchup-wise, I know that you cannot underestimate Georgia Tech. We've talked about it a little bit here on SportsGrid, how offensively they've got a lot to offer on the attack. And you have FSU, who lost a lot of players, key players, to their system. But when Travis went down last year, when a lot of their injuries kind of accumulated for FSU, I thought we saw some good depth, and I still think they have two of the top pass rushers in the ACC. So what are you seeing in this Week 0 showdown?
Yeah, the one thing that really stood out to me just in terms of the betting lines, I'm stunned by how high the over-under is. The one book that I got it at was 56.5. And we got to take into account here all of the variables that are coming into this game. It's being played in Ireland. It's the first game of the season. That field, typically, it's a grass soccer field. The weather conditions are typically not great. It's been rainy the past couple of years playing over in Ireland, so that one could slow things down. But more importantly, between these two teams, they're both defensive-minded teams. They both run the football effectively. DJU, first year in a new offense. I'm not super optimistic on what he's going to do offensively with this team just in general, especially because they put out two of their top receivers in Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman. But with all of that going against him, I think that because of how stout they are on the defensive side of the football and how physical Georgia Tech's going to try to be in this game, there's no shot that they're touching that 56.5 point line there. So another one I'm running the book with. That is a very easy play, and I'm sure that line's probably going to move before that game kicks off.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because, again, kind of touching back to when we saw a complete injury plague against the FSU roster and them having to readjust their game plan, we see how much they keep it to the ground, and that works favorably for them. So now you're talking weather conditions. You're also talking, some lag on the legs because that flight over to Ireland is no joke, and then the climate can play a role into everything as well. So I was shocked when I saw this total sitting at 56.5. I was playing with a little bit of first half winners here. That's kind of where I think I'm better off, but I also thought I was good with directions before I moved to Jersey. Would you entertain any sort of like FSU first half winner or spread or odds?
I would definitely entertain the thought of the first half winner. I believe that number that you had up on the board was around covering 11.5 or somewhere along those lines. Whatever that halftime line is, I actually might even be inclined to take Georgia Tech to cover at halftime because, again, this is going to be a slow game to start. There's going to be a feeling out period, especially for Florida State. If this game goes well for Florida State, they're going to blow Georgia Tech out of the water, but I just don't believe that is in the cards for them because of all the new faces. And again, it also really feels like that they're shifting their focus to running the football with all the new faces that they added to their running back room. They're going to want to lean on that. I don't think it's going to be a totally highly potent day for them.
Yeah. And now, speaking of new faces, we've got a guy who's got to be the new Heisman Trophy winner. Who's standing out to you in the top of the rankings here? You got Carson Beck sitting at the top. You touched on him a little bit ago. Quinn Ewers, you've got Will Howard. You've got a number of names here, and I love when it's not always the most obvious guy, but tell me how you're feeling or gelling with the sports books in this one.
I have been banging the table for Cam Ward, who's listed at number 9 up on the screen right now at plus 2,000 odds. He is the new quarterback at Miami. I have been tracking this kid since he was at Incarnate Word, where he put up insane stats. He transferred to Washington State. He was on film one of the better quarterbacks in the country, but still trying to figure out how to reel in his decision-making. I look at the situation that he has with Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo to throw to, a stout offensive line, but one of the best running backs in the country, arguably maybe even the best in Damian Martinez. There is so much for Cam Ward to lean on. There's so much potential for Miami to go 11-1, win the ACC, and he's the type of guy that's going to put up some ridiculous numbers if they're able to accomplish that.
See, I saw that. I saw that Miami was probably one of the most underestimated teams when it came to the ACC conversation. And if anybody caught me gabbering on earlier today, I also thought that the Dolphins were severely underestimated. So maybe it's a Miami theme right now, but make sure you go follow Joe so that you can have all of the best insight and information when it comes to college football. Joe, thank you so much for geeking out with me. Stick with us because we've got a lot more to get to on the other side of this break on Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. And the ball keeps rolling as we go from NFL, MLB, golf with Smiley, now golf with Brady Cannon. You guys know how much I love chatting with Cannon. And I got to ask you, before we get into the odds and all that stuff for FedEx, if you had to bet on yourself, how's your golf game been so far? Because I know you've been on the course. How are your odds looking?
I was a long shot to do much of anything today. I did hole a putt on the very last hole from about 12 feet to win the money today. All of $2. I was playing with some pretty high rollers and made the putt when it counted, so that was fun.
Hey, at least you made $2. My friends and I bet snacks out on the course because that's the safest thing for our pocket.
That's probably worth more than what I made, so...
Absolutely. A Stella and a bag of pistachios is a great winning circle for myself.
I like it.
Now.
I like it.
You mentioned, we've talked a number of times, and you've talked about some surprises, some young guys, some new guys, and new faces that have kind of made waves here. Looking at where things are shaking up so far, you got McCarthy, you got Matsuyama, you got Burns, you got Scheffler, you got Rose sitting at the top of this FedEx Championship. What have you seen so far out of this tournament?
Well, so far so good for me. Pre-tournament, I have a bet on Hideki Matsuyama. I didn't get a great number on him. I got him at 28-1, and he was really more consensus price anyway at about 30 or 32-1. But hey, I'll take it. I hope he continues right where he's going along so far. What worries me about Matsuyama, though, is he's really getting it done with the flat stick. He is number one in this field with stroke gain. Now, he's also second in regulation and eighth on strokes gained approach. So that is all good. The scrambling is a little bit atypical for Matsuyama. He is one of the very best scramblers in the world, and right now he's 27th in this field for scrambling. But the putter is so hot that worries me, Kasey. Like, that's bound to cool off. I can't imagine he's going to be that hot with the putter for 4 days. So we'll see. I hope he's able to hold on. I've also got a pre-tournament bet on Billy Horschel, who's going along okay. His numbers worry me a little bit erratic. And then, of course, you got to be worried about the man, Scotty Scheffler, just 2 shots off the lead, lurking in the weeds right there. And, of course, everybody I'm sure is aware. His odds, he's less than 2-1 to win this golf tournament. He is the favorite. Matsuyama is the second choice at around 3-1. I think Sam Burns is definitely a scary guy. You can get him at 7-1 right now. He's a very good putter on Bermuda grass. He hails from this part of the country. He's from Louisiana, so he's very familiar with this type of golf, these grasses, these surfaces. He could be a factor here definitely over the weekend. McCarthy, he is known for putting. He's one of the best putters in the world. He's number 2 right now in the field for strokes gained putting. He's a little bit of a longer shot to win it. I think the price is very fair, for a guy at 8-1 in the lead. Not a bad price, but I don't think it's going to be Denny McCarthy. I think you're probably looking. Matsuyama certainly has a great shot. You just wonder about that putter. I mentioned Scheffler, very, very scary. The one guy though, and this is not a new guy or an up-and-comer, like you say, making waves, Kasey. This is an old guy. Justin Rose, I think, is pretty interesting. At 28-1 in that neighborhood, he is currently 3rd in the field for strokes gained off the tee, 7th for strokes gained approach, 4th in driving accuracy, and 2nd in greens and regulation. But with the putter, he's 44th in this field, 44th out of 70 players. So he has not been putting that great. And Justin Rose is a pretty darn good putter. So if his putter just heats up a little bit, Kasey, and the rest of his game stays the same, look out for Justin Rose. And that's a pretty juicy price at 28-1.
And I think I've seen Rose play pretty well on a Georgia course. Don't quote me on that, but I kind of remember gauging him making a jump in the rankings sometime last season. Now, talking about a jump, we kind of chatted a little earlier with Kaufman about it. You've got Hovland, was kind of flashy last year, inconsistent so far, not sitting too far off when it comes to the odds right now. What are you seeing out of Hovland? Is there anything worth looking at in his games? Any way he can kind of sneak into the conversation a bit more?
He was a popular pick before this tournament started. He was the FedEx Cup champion last year. Didn't win this tournament. This tournament was won by Lucas Glover, but he was the overall FedEx Cup champion, winning the final 2 events of the year, if I recall, the BMW Championship, and I believe he took the Tour Championship as well. And then you're right, he all of a sudden, he was the hottest player on the planet at the end of last year and has not been anything close to that this year. But and that's why I'm hesitant to back him here. He's off to a good start. He's gotten off to some good starts before and eventually just unravels. We saw it at the Masters. We've seen it at a number of tournaments where it looks like, okay, Victor's back. He hasn't been back yet. So no, even though we're off to a good start, we're halfway through, nobody misses the cut here. This is not a 36-hole cut event or anything like that. So we've still got 2 full rounds of golf with the entire field in play. But Patrick Cantlay was another guy that was relatively popular this week, and he hasn't done much of anything this season. Same with Hovland. And so, no, I haven't had faith in those guys all year, so why start now?
Yeah, steer clear of the popular guys because it's not really going in their favor. You also did break down kind of some of the cuss guys to keep an eye on when we chatted on Wednesday. Has anything changed in terms of your dark horse for this tournament before we talk about the LIV?
Yeah, you know, Ben Griffin was my dark horse. He got off to a great start on Thursday, shooting 4 under par. And then unfortunately, he didn't do anything to capitalize on that great start today. He shot even par. So he's now 7 shots off the pace. I don't think he's completely out of it, but he is certainly behind the 8 ball with 7 shots to make up with such a loaded field, with guys like Scheffler and Matsuyama, and you've got Billy Horschel up there, a number of big names, Sam Burns at the top of this leaderboard. So it may be insurmountable for Griffin at this point, but you know, you can also look into finishing position markets, Kasey, like maybe a top 20 finish, and you can still get a nice price on Ben Griffin to sneak in there. And you're probably getting a good plus price on Griffin because he is one of the, you know, I want to say lesser known might not be the right term, but he certainly doesn't have the star power that a lot of these guys in this field do. So you're probably likely to get a better price on him than somebody with a big name that the books know is going to attract attention. So yeah, Griffin was my long shot going into the tournament. Colin Morikawa was the shortest guy I played this week. He's been very disappointing. Got off to a decent start yesterday, but was really lousy shooting over par today. So I've got Russell Henley, Billy Horschel, of course, Matsuyama, and Griffin are all kind of in the mix. Griffin might be a good play for like a top 20 finish.
Yeah, well, I hope that Matsuyama continues because I do remember you mentioning him on Wednesday. Quickly pivoting over to Liv, some of the top picks and odds that might be ranking out over there for you.
You know, it's not surprising to see Taylor Gooch at the top. He's one of the best players on the Live circuit. He's had a lot of success here, not a lot of victories, and I think he did get a win last season. He doesn't have one yet this year, but he's certainly one of the top players on the Live circuit. Brooks Koepka doesn't surprise me at all because I felt that this golf course was going to cater to the bigger hitters. And Koepka is certainly one of the bigger hitters in the field, as is Jon Rahm, who is right there, I believe, just 1 shot off the lead last time I checked. So Koepka and Rahm really don't surprise me at all, nor does Taylor Gooch. Jason Kokrak is right up there, another big hitter. My guys, they got off to a good start, and then they kind of faltered down the stretch. I've got Abraham Answer, who's 3 shots back. I've got Joaquin Niemann, who's 4 shots off the pace. And then Bryson DeChambeau really had it going, but made a couple of mistakes late, and he is now 5 shots off the pace, the defending champion in Bryson DeChambeau. So we'll see. We've got 2 more days left on the Live circuit. We'll see if we can get some guys into position.
Yes, hopefully some of those guys rise in the rankings. But as we know, golf, if you're just shortly behind, then you have a chance to overtake. Brady, thank you so much. I hope your golf game continues and that you can make more than $2 as you continue to work through. Stay with us here on SportsGrid TV.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. We've only got a little time left, but we've got much more to get to, and I'm really excited to get to it with Dave Shervin here. We got to chat on Wednesday. We got a number of things we can work through today, but so far, how's your Friday going, Dave?
So far, so good. Great to see you. Yes, we had a nice, first segment together. Apparently, we're going to get to do this more. We didn't mess it up, so they let me come back and talk to you. This is great. Friday, technically before the real football season starts, it's to be the last week of the preseason for real, because the last week of preseason isn't real. And then we'll have week 0 college football, and we still have baseball. So that's exciting and fun to talk about. I heard you talking to Brady about golf. We're getting to these playoffs of all these things. It's the actual end of summer vacation for a lot of people. So great to be here on a Friday night.
I know. I do need to find like a proper golf course in Jersey to get a couple games in before winter hits. And winter will hit for me probably next week when the high is 72 and the low is 66, just in case anybody was wondering. That's winter to me. But you did mention the MLB slate, and I had a question for Tom Vecchio earlier, which I've got to circle it back to you because I'm just dying to hear your answer. Bar talk on a Friday. You walk into a bar, you've got an opportunity to make one good impression, your best pickup line. What's your best bet of the night in your pickup line form?
Well, I'm wearing the Pirates stuff, and I really hope that the Pirates would end their losing streak today. But when you look at the slate and you go Gilbert and Skeens, you think a lot of strikeouts, but you think under. So under 7 in the early games is the first thing. And, everybody likes parlays, Casey, and you got to have a late game. And, me and George Kurtz are doing it here on In-Game Live Primetime after this show. San Diego. I mean, it's expensive on the money line, but it's against Colorado. Quantrill's pitching. There's really no hotter team in baseball, although the Arizona Diamondbacks will give the Padres a run for their money. I think it's the under in the Pirate game and the Padres on the money line. How's that?
Ooh, I like that, actually. I'm here for that one because I know that with the Pirates, you got Skeens who's got to help them shake things up here, and it's a lot of pressure on him. He's always kind of been that guy. I mean, he's performed extraordinarily well, so I get why the pressure is added into him, but I think that that's a safe way to go for Friday night bar talk and it not be too crazy. Now, for my crazy talk, I tried to steer clear of being super basic when it comes to betting or for my bar talk. So my way to keep it simple if I walked into a bar and dropped my line, mine is Judge 2+ hits, Soto RBI, and Yankees run line, which this game is now in progress.
Wow.
Moving along pretty nicely.
Okay, so we're going to be in for a little bit of a talk. This isn't a pickup line. You want to sit down and have appetizers, and you want to have a bit of a meal. I like your style. That's good.
Your pickup line went well, so now we can chat.
Right. This is good. We can sit down and work this out. I mean, we get enough Yankee talk here on the network. I always try to avoid it, but I mean, I'll be on with Kurtz, and he's Mr. Yankee, and we got a couple guys coming on to talk about the Yankees, so that's fine. This is good. Back to the weather thing. I spent almost 2 years living in the Caribbean down in Curacao back in the day. My blood thinned forever. I've been out in Vegas now 21 years and Phoenix before that. I hope you brought turtlenecks. I hope you brought long sleeves. I hope you brought little beanies, because if you're coming from Florida, you ain't ready for what's coming in the fall. You know that.
I'm nowhere near ready. Like I said, it's winter for me already. I got here a week ago. I went downstairs to walk my dog at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was 68 degrees, and I was shocked. I was very unwell for that day.
Okay.
I made it clear to everyone that winter is already here, and that now I have to go dress accordingly. So I've got sweats put to the side just to go dog walking before 9 a.m. Now, it does heat up pretty nicely, but yeah, this 60 degrees, like this is what we see in Florida come like end of November, a few sprinkles throughout December, and then January, you know what 60s actually feel like. I have no idea how to prepare otherwise.
Well, I know you like hockey, and you're going to be prepared for hockey weather. You've been out of it a little bit. Hockey weather down in Florida is different than hockey weather, you know, in the Crucible where you're at between Rangers, Islanders, Devils, all close by. And there'll be a lot to think about and talk about then when we get to that point. I wanted to ask you quick about preseason football. Do you watch it? Like if we're going to sit down and have appetizers and talk and we walk into, like if I go, hey, do you like anything tomorrow in preseason football? Are you interested or no?
Week 1, not so much. Week 2, I'm a little bit more interested, and I'm definitely more invested in games where we know that the starters are going to be involved because you're actually going to see something that's relevant. So for me, I had a couple of picks. Now that we're sitting down, we're talking, we're hanging out. I was liking the Ravens-Falcons because on both sides, or for both teams, you got young guys that are banged up defensively. Hamilton, Trice, and then Wiggins, I believe, was a rookie guy that's banged up there. So I'm kind of seeing a little bit of a high-scoring affair, but nothing too high. So I took an alt total of over 32.5 when it came to the Falcons and Ravens game. I see a face there.
No, I'm looking.
Are we still
vibing?
deep?
No, we're vibing, but I'm like, wow, she went on an over, and overs in the preseason, you got to be real careful. So I saw the under in the Bills and Steelers. I couldn't agree more. I don't think anybody's going to show anybody anything in that game, and I don't know who to be the quarterback and who's going to get the most reps in that thing. You went a first half in the preseason, Case? What is that?
The preseason's been pretty surprising. Last weekend, there was a handful of bets that we just missed out on. First of all, what was it? Broncos, Colts that went into a wacky total. I had the under for the Rams game. So I was feeling a little confident. Maybe overly confident, but we'll see how it plays out. And plus, Texans put up 17 points in the first half last week. Dave?
Listen, I like it. That's great. That's good stuff. Well, I got to go do this in-game live. You take care of the rest of the show.
I will. You guys will see Dave in a little bit because you're going to stick around here on SportsGrid TV.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV, and we've got one final chat, one final sit down before I toss you guys over to in-game live prime time with Dave, with George. But before we go there, George and I were just enjoying an engaging conversation, our top, and he wasn't too sure about the first half for the Texans game. But as I mentioned, I'm hearing that the starters are going on both ends. And when you're looking at that and all of the question marks around what is going to be the New York Giants, I think that the Texans get that hot start. So I'm not talking about them putting up 17 points in the first half like they did last week, but I think that they can be in command to be that first half winner. That's just that's the case that I'm pleading with this one. Now, I didn't get a chance to really touch too much on my picks when it comes to the Lions versus the Chiefs game. I think by now most of you guys know, I don't know, my conundrum with the Chiefs, but you'd be happy to know Chiefs Kingdom. I got them going at -7.5 here, and I also have the under 38.5 total. I've talked about it a number of times. You've got question marks at the wide receiver depth. You've got question marks at some of the weapons outside of Travis Kelce that Patrick Mahomes is going to have, but it's Patrick freaking Mahomes, right? So obviously we're going to see some sort of an interesting game. You're going against a Lions team that I'm a big fan of. I love the structure that they've kept intact. I like the young guys. We haven't talked much about Ennis Rakestraw Jr., who had a great week 1, 3 total tackles. So when you're a young guy coming out and making a statement, I think he did just that. I want to be looking for him to build out his performance heading into week 2 versus a Chiefs team. Now, obviously, if you don't have many wide receivers to mark and go against, that's why I like the under 38.5 total here. I think that they're going to have to get a little engaging when it comes to the ground game. Obviously, we'll see some more tight end work. And then when it comes to the Lions, we know their capability of having a ground game, but there's some injuries that have taken place. So I also see a little bit more running the ball happening there also. So they're not going to be playing their starters from the last thing that I heard, which is also why I swung with the Chiefs on this one. Starters going in, Lions really not making any kind of statement whether or not they'll have their starters. They're going to continue to rest them. So you've got elite going against the guys that are still trying to get a roster spot. Then Cowboys versus Raiders. Raiders -7.5. I'm taking this because the competition's a bit higher, and the intensity and the importance of this game is definitely higher when it comes to the Raiders. They're trying to figure out who their QB1 is, who's going to get the tap under center, and Antonio Pierce has made it clear that he has to figure that out in this game. And it makes sense because then they have to properly manage how they're going to weather out the rest of preseason heading into week 1 for the NFL. So I thought it was an easy one here. If you find an alt spread total, maybe somewhere around 5, I could see that one as well. I don't expect it to be a blowout. I just don't think that the Cowboys are going to put too many of their front runners out there. And then, of course, with everything they have going on, I just don't really see them taking preseason as severely seriously as the Raiders clearly need to figure out who their quarterback is going to be. Vikings-Browns. This is tough. This is why a lot of people struggle when it comes to preseason, because injuries happen. Joint practices cause all sort of issues outside of the normal tension, drama, or whatever you want to call it. And the Browns are kind of taking a heavy hit here with a lot of the injuries that they've collected over practices this week. You also have Deshaun Watson, who will not be in this weekend. So when you're looking at the potential here between the Vikings and the Browns, the key focus is going to be the fact that Sam Darnold is obviously that key guy. He was splitting reps beforehand. He's going to get more coming up here because we got to see that Sam Darnold can actually connect with his targets, quality targets. Addison got carted off the field earlier this week, but turns out that he is fine. You still have one of the top wide receivers in Justin Jefferson, and still some things that the Vikings have to figure out. So I think between the fact that there's needs to be some more settlement when it comes to Sam Darnold and getting acclimated with the wide receivers on the Vikings roster versus a Browns team that's battling some injuries, then I like the Vikings in whichever way possible to take that game. Commanders, Dolphins. Dolphins are just going to probably show off that new 2 tight end set flex that I am excited to see. Again, you got the Commanders kind of sorting through a deep quarterback room. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. And then Packers, Broncos, anything you can get on Bo Nix because he surprised the heck out of me. I was so excited to see what he did. He was a lot quicker, making decisions, moving in the pocket for the Broncos. He used his legs. He used his arm. That's a game that I think is going to be well over interesting. So when you talk about preseason, something to look forward to is not only just Jordan Love and company, it's also going to be Bo Nix and whatever the Broncos have up their sleeve coming up. But we've got in-game live primetime coming up with Dave and George, and you're going to want to stick around and hang with those two. Thank you so much for joining me here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV.